Word spread fast about what happened. It ran non-stop on every single news station. It was a glaring headline in every newspaper. It was the frightened words on everyone's lips. She gave a perfect description of him: his mangled face, grayish skin, frayed hair, and tattered clothing. His image, brutal act, and apparent connection to the missing child I had been responsible for murdering had created a folk legend akin to the Mothman or Bigfoot. Over the next few weeks, sightings of Jeff the Killer bloomed all over Oak Grove and the surrounding area. The police had organized search parties. People were snapping pictures of random shadows and figures, claiming to have photographed Jeff. I found it sickening, to say the least, not to mention absolutely terrifying. No one took Lisa's death and the subsequent media firestorm that followed worse than her brother, Troy. After Jeff murdered her, Troy started seeing him everywhere, in darkened alleyways, in unlit hallways, or staring through his bedroom window. Troy was, to put it bluntly, white trash. He and Lisa both came from the same poverty-stricken family, but whereas Lisa maintained a normal social life, Troy wore his class on his sleeve. He was obese, inarticulate, poorly educated, and never dressed well. He was very protective of his sister, and I could tell losing her broke something in him. Troy had become obsessed with the idea of revenge. He began stockpiling weapons, knives, clubs, even axes, waiting for Jeff to come after him. He had planned to viciously murder Jeff and put him through a kind of suffering even worse than his sister suffered. He would get an opportunity to try one night, but would live to regret his wish. It was 3 weeks after Lisa's death. He was sitting on a wooden chair next to the window in his bedroom, a combat knife tightly gripped in his hand, waiting patiently to see Jeff's face again, so he could make the gruesome scars that covered it a pleasant memory. He saw Jeff standing out in his yard with his knife, looking up at him. The two stared at each other, waiting for one to make the first move. Suddenly, Jeff walked over to Troy's front door, kicked it down, and stomped inside. Troy leaped into action immediately, running out of his room and down the stairs, with his knife gripped tightly in his fist. Troy couldn't find Jeff, but that never deterred him. Without so much as a moment of doubt or hesitance, Troy continued to run all over the first floor of his house, trying to find where Jeff might be hiding. Troy followed the sounds of crashing metal and pounding footsteps to the kitchen, where he could practically feel Jeff's presence. He searched every corner, under the table, even outside the oven. It became obvious that Jeff wasn't there. He ran out into the living room to find Jeff. He knew he was successful when Jeff tackled him and knocked him to the ground. There was a struggle, but Troy resisted. He managed to shove Jeff off, toss him into a glass cabinet, and even managed to slash his face with his knife. Even though Jeff was vulnerable, he still easily overpowered Troy. After all, a revenant can't be brought down by a witless man. Whatever brought him back to get his revenge made him stronger than ever. He was strong enough to beat up a grown man twice as tall as him. He punched him, tossed him, smashed his head into the ground, and eventually finished it by pinning Troy's hand to the ground with his own knife. In a great deal of pain, Troy struggled, screamed, and cursed at Jeff. The same kind of intense rage I saw in Jeff's face had consumed Troy himself. He felt exactly what Jeff did. His anger quickly faded into fear as Jeff walked upstairs and came back down with multiple weapons from Troy's room. There was nothing left of him after that.